say shalom and welcome to Christ Apostolic Church. Welcome you to this Bible class on tonight. Certainly grateful for all those who are in the house here and those who are tuning in with us through the live stream. Certainly glad to have you here as well. We're appreciative unto the Most High, His only begotten Son, that in Him we live, move, we have our being, and certainly without Him we can do nothing. Without Him we are nothing. We can do nothing. So we are looking to Him for all of our life, our health and our strength. And we're certainly seeking Him, amen, 6 a.m. if you can, or whenever you roll out of bed. Our prayers are going up before Him at the start of the day and then the start of the night, the first watch of the night. We're on our knees seeking Him, seeking the Most High, and our Lord and our Savior, Jesus Christ, asking for divine instruction. We certainly need Him in this hour, in this day, and divine protection as we continue to see some deterioration and the falling apart of our what they call democracy and what represents democracy and our legislative branch, and the attack on this country was called the insurrection, and we are not over. That is not put to rest. There's still going to be some things down the road, and rough times and rough waters, turbulence ahead. There's some turbulence going to be ahead of us, and so we're asking for divine protection. You never know. You could be on your way to your job. You could be on your job, and you've got those who are sympathetic to the insurrection, and they want to settle scores in their own regard, in their own rights, if they call them that. But we're seeking for protection of our homes while we slumber and sleep. I pray that you protect me from the neighbors up and down the street. and you know, I don't know what they're saying in those houses. I don't know if they want to make an example of somebody on the block or what. I don't know. So I'm praying for protection upon my house, upon my wife, upon my children as they go to and fro and on the job and in the classrooms. And I'm praying for you as well, and I hope you are praying as well. Just thinking as I'm saying this, I'm thinking, and you know, when Jesus had give a parable in St. Luke, the 18th chapter, and He said, men ought to always pray and not faint. And so prayer is one of those commands that's upon us. We have to recognize that it is in our best interest to take time out. During your busy and hectic day, a lot of us are busy. You know, some of us got children, you know, we got grandchildren, we got our employer, we just have a lot of things going on around the house, you know, house management. We have those who have health issues in the home, the care of the home, the care of our loved ones in the home. But in the midst of all of that, you got to find some time find some time to where you can communicate with Him and talk with Him. He said, men ought to always pray, not faint. So we don't want to get slack when it comes to that. We want to definitely make sure that our prayers are going up to Him on a daily basis, And I just believe that He hears our prayer and our cry. I'm in this Bible class. I'm going to call out a few scriptures. Don't plan on being with you too long on tonight, but some of the things that are concerning to me that just can't seem to. I want to. There's sometimes you just want to move forward with certain things, and as you're moving forward with certain things, then He just brings you back to something, you know. And so, just wondering today, just how people are deceived and the blanket of deception that is worldwide. It doesn't take much for man to be deceived. You look at the human nature, and I know a lot of us, we rest in our pride. Some of us have human pride. We have, our religious pride. We feel like, I can't be deceived. And soon as you fully agree with the thought process of that, then you'll find yourself being easily overtaken. Many of us, if not all, were born into deception. There's things that are going on in today's time that our fathers and mothers had nothing to do. It was already here. There was things that was already set in order before any of us stepped in church. You might have been unsaved for 20, 30, 40 years, and then you step into church and you find truth, and you're born of the water and spirit, and there's things that that comes with the structure of the church that, if we're not careful, I don't pretend for a minute that the adversary doesn't want to sit on the congregation. I don't pretend for a minute. Why? Because that's what he said he wanted to do. He wants to sit on the congregation. And so anytime you have true believers, anytime you have those that he has selected, you're going to be attacked. You're going to be, he's going to make war with you. It says that in the book of Revelation, that he wants to make war with the saints. He says that in the prophet Daniel. He's going to make war with the saints. And even in Daniel, he says he's going to overcome them. So there's some that are overcome. But I don't want to pretend for a minute that he doesn't have the capability to deceive and with mass deception. And so as I do some research and study and looking at some things, and he's the things that he has done. Oh my, we'd have to go back a number of years. I mean, before my grandparents were even thought of. I mean, we have to go back a number of years, because the deception didn't start in our age, in our day. It didn't start then. He has been active since the time of his fall, since the time he was kicked out of heaven. He came down with the purpose of deceiving the whole world. So when we know the capability of our adversary, and I know the only thing that I have to combat him with, the only thing I have to combat him with, and I understand the power of the Holy Ghost, I understand that. But the only thing that I have to combat him with is light. Is light. Is the light that he gives us in his word, the instructions that he gives us in his word, walking in his word, walking in this light. The only thing I have to defeat him with. When you understand in the creation, when you understand when he brought out light, darkness had to flee. Darkness does not commune with light at all. You have to have one or the other. Either you're going to have light or darkness. But when light shows up, then darkness has to flee. And that's why, because I'm going to talk a little bit about the Beatitudes on tonight, but that's why it's so important for us to have light, and have the light of the Scripture and the light of the Spirit, the light of His Word, and that light cannot go out, because if we don't have that light in us, if we don't have that light or the understanding, the revelation in His Word, well, if it's not light, then what is it? Well, you got the crack of dawn. You got dust. There's some light. I ain't completely dark. And some of us, it's like dusk. It's not completely dark. There is some light, but it's not full light. And I'm very thankful that he doesn't wait till we have full light for salvation. I'm thankful of that. I'm thankful that it's a grade school. I mean, a young child can follow it. Just the mere fact and believing in Jesus Christ unto salvation and how he leads you. He'll lead you into the light. He'll lead you into the light of what does it take to be saved. Because you heard me say this before, when there's only one Lord, one faith, one baptism, so how do we get so many? How is there, you take one book, how do you get so many different denominations, so many different religions, so many things, off of one book? Off of one book. You'll come up with a multiple of ways off of one book, and he says there's only one. So that lets you know how clever the devil is. You let you know how powerful the adversary is, Satan is in deception. He has the ability to deceive. Now, there's some things that we have to understand if we want to say certain things. Like, for example, what are you talking about? For example, are we living in the last days? I mean, if we believe we're living in the last days, then there is scripture, even in the prophets, that talks about the last days. So some things I'm going to say is, do you believe the whole book, or do you believe part of the book? Do you believe the whole book, or are you just taking out certain books? I used to, one of my favorite books for a while there, for a season anyway, was the book of Hebrews. For a while there, that was, one of my favorite books. Who's your favorite prophet? Oh, my favorite prophet, I would probably had to be Isaiah, I would say. I mean, all of them are good, but sometimes you pick out certain prophets or certain books and certain things you want. But if I'm only taking one book out of this whole Bible, if I'm only taking one chapter or one, and that's all I want, then you're not, that's not, when he says, I want you to be perfect, even as your Father is perfect, that's not walking in perfection if you only have one. You have to take the totality of the book. And so sometimes I wonder, do we want to even understand the totality of the book? Or do we just want to parse? I want to parse this. I want to parse this because I got a certain narrative, and so I don't want the whole book. I don't even want to read Genesis. I just want to read, Psalms. After Psalms, I go to Matthew. And then, I go to Romans, and I mean that's how some people read the book. So they're just parsing things here and there. And that's not how he wants us to be if we're to believe the whole book and to walk in the light of this book. To walk in the light of this book is to have an understanding. And so if we believe these are the last days, if I was to take a poll and I would say, do you think these are the last days? I'm certain everyone in the house, physically and possibly digitally, would say, yeah, these are the last days. I believe these are the last days. Do you believe that Peter, when he got up on the day of Pentecost and he preached his sermon and he says, in the last days, he's going to pour out his spirit on all flesh. Do you believe Peter was preaching in the last days? Now, if you're saying Peter preached in the last days began when he poured out his spirit, then where does that take us now? If the last days was in the time of the birth of the church, that's when the last days begin. Well, if we believe the last days begin at the birth of the church, then you have to go and really understand what is written about the last days in the totality of the book. And I'm not going to be able to get to speak on all of it on tonight. But if I believe these are the last days, and, ever since I've been a child growing up in the church, we always thought, these are the last days. We're living in the last days. That was back in the 60s. Not that I'm that old, but I don't think I'm that old, but I'm just going back to the 60s and 70s. And we was saying, man, we are in the last days. Well, if that's what you believe, then you need to look at the totality of the book, speaking of the last days, and what does the last days, and then how long is the last days? If we say the last days started in when Peter preached on the day of Pentecost and the Holy Ghost and the birth of the church, that was the beginning of the last days. Because I heard that teaching. When he poured out his Spirit on the day of Pentecost, that was the beginning of the last days. So if I'm of that mindset and I believe that, and I understand that's 2,000 years ago, so we're living in the last days for 2,000 some years. I mean, you have to believe that if you believe that he poured out his Spirit in the last days like he spoke when Peter spoke about Joel. Because in Joel, he talks about, I'm going to do this in the last days. So then the question is, well, how long is the last days? Sometimes I wish my last days was that long. I mean, if we're saying the last days started the day of Pentecost and we're still here, and this is the last days, man, that's quite a lot. That's a nice piece of time. We're talking a couple of millenniums. So, if we're believing these are the last days, there's some things written in the prophets that, well, let's just read them. Let's just read them. Let's go to Isaiah, Isaiah chapter 2, verse 2. Isaiah chapter 2, verse 2. And I'm going to read verse 2 and 3. And the witness to this is Micah chapter 4, verse 1 and 2. That's out of the mouth of two or three witnesses. It says that in Deuteronomy 17. That's in our law book. That out of the mouth of two or three witnesses, let every word be established. And so that's in our law book. That's a principle of our law book in Deuteronomy chapter 17. Isaiah 2 and 2, and it shall come to pass in the last days, the mountain of Yah's house shall be established in the top of the mountains and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And I want you to keep in mind now that we're saying either you are of the belief that, or you understand it as the last days started on the day of Pentecost. Or you're saying that we're living, where we're living now, 2020, 2021, these are the last days. Now, what do you believe? Because if you believe we're in the last days, this is what's going to happen in the last days. And verse 3, so what's going to happen in the last days? Well, he says that his mountain is going to be established on the top of the mountains and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. So Yah's mountain, what his mountain is what we believe when it comes to the faith of this book. That's the top of the mountain. You might have other religions, other faiths, other beliefs out there, but the very top one, that's his mountain. The faith of our Father is the top of the mountain. You can't get above that. You can't get above it at all. Are there other mountains out there? According to this, there's other mountains and other hills. So you have other religions and you have other faiths that are out there. But he's at the top. And he goes on and he talks about all nations are going to flow unto his mountain in the last days, right? In the last days. And verse number 3, and many people shall go and say, come ye, let us go up to the mountain of Yah, to the house of the God of Jacob. And he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of Yah from where? Jerusalem. Now we're in the last days, right? This is the last days. So in the last days, you have nations or nations, ethnicities, races, all of them are going to be coming unto his mountain and to his house. And what are they going to come unto his mountain and to his house and get what? They're going to get taught. It doesn't say that the other nations are going to do the teaching. He says here that they're going to come unto my house and he is going to teach us of his ways. And we will walk in his paths. Now, this is the last days. We've already, whatever your belief is, that's why I wanted to put that out there first. I want to put that, whatever your belief is, maybe you don't, well, after listening to you say this already, I don't believe we're in the last days. And you might be of that argument or persuasion. You know, that's why I wanted to get some kind of, you know, let's determine now what you believe is the last days. Because if you believe this is the last days, then there's certain things that we have to understand. There's certain light that I have to walk in. If I believe these are the last days. Now, if I don't believe in the last days, then what we can say is this is yet to come. Because if you keep reading down here, we're not going to read all the way down here, but it does talk about they're not going to learn war anymore. There's going to be peace. Now, we know that in the day, if you keep reading down here, but we know that in the day that we are now, there's no peace. There's war. There is a lot of war. A lot of war going on. So, is this yet to come? Or is it to be done now? Or did it start already? When our Messiah gave his life and his blood was shed for us, and 3 days he got up out of the grave, and he was seen with them for 40 days, and then he was witnessed that he went up into heaven, and Peter preached, the Holy Ghost given. Was this scripture being fulfilled at that time? Or were we looking for another day? It's almost like John the Baptist when he was about to see death. He says, are you the one or should we look for another? You know, so was this supposed to be fulfilled in the day of Pentecost when he poured out his Spirit? Because in that day, where did they go to hear about the Messiah? Didn't they go to Jerusalem? Wasn't it Jerusalem? He even sent out his disciples. He sent them out. And then the other disciple he sent out was Paul. He sent Paul out. So when it says that they're going to, or he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths, For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of Yah from Jerusalem. Now, when he told them, and how many people know what Acts 1 and 8 says? Anybody here know what Acts 1 and 8? But we shall be witnesses. He says that you are going to be witnesses unto me, and that they were going to go into Jerusalem. What does that say? You come, and then what? Right. You'll be witnesses unto me. And the uttermost part of the world. So you had Jerusalem first. Jerusalem, Samaria, Judea, and the uttermost parts of the world. So where did it originate from and where did it come from? It came from Jerusalem. It came from Jerusalem. And that's why everybody looks to Jerusalem. Everybody, and you're supposed to, according to this verse, I don't hear nothing about Rome. I don't hear nothing about Rome. It don't say nothing about look to Rome. Rome is going to teach you now. I don't think he ever gave that up. It was to come from Jerusalem. So everybody needs to look to Jerusalem. And we look to Jerusalem because it teaches us of his ways. So why don't we look to Jerusalem? Why don't we look to Jerusalem for the ways of the Most High? What is his way? He says, and he will teach us of his ways. Now, there was another prophet, Jeremiah, how many know where that chapter 6, verse 16 is it? Let's go to Jeremiah 6:16 and let's come back. Jeremiah 6:16. Thus saith Yah, stand ye in the ways and see and ask for the old paths in Jeremiah's day. Not in 2020, we're going to ask for the old paths. We're going back to the 1960s. You're way off. Because at the time that Jeremiah was writing his prophecy, Israel was going into captivity. And why did they go into captivity? They went into captivity for disobedience, idolatry. They totally walked away from his statutes, command. Didn't want to have nothing to do with them. Totally walked away from them. And he says, stand ye in the ways and see and ask for the old paths, wherein is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But what did the people say? We ain't walking in that. We ain't walking in that. As if the Most High ways, standards, commandments is not even sought after. They're not even asked about. David said, I meditate on them day and night. I meditate on them day and night. That's my meditation. So Rome doesn't have the old paths. They don't have the old path. Now, they got their way, but they don't have the old paths. But you know who is speaking here that we will not walk in? You know who said that? His own people. Israel said that. No, we ain't walking in that. The people that were under covenant, that was given this book, that was given the word, the law, the commandment, it was given to them. It wasn't given to no other nation. And they said, no, we're not walking in that. No, we're not going to do it. Let's go back to Isaiah. Isaiah 2 and 3. Teach us of his ways. We will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of Yah from Jerusalem. So if I want to hear the word of the Most High, I wonder, where do I go? If I want to know the law, where is the law supposed to come from? Jerusalem, but it says here, for out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of Yah from Jerusalem. So why isn't nobody looking there? Why doesn't nobody look there? Is it because we feel that it is like an old garment that he just kind of balled up? And you know how old garment gets, it gets moth-eaten, and people ball it up, they throw it away. I'm just going to throw it away. I have no need for it. When he said that his word is forever settled in heaven, so can't no moth get to it? It can't be eaten up. It's not going to fade away. Never will fade away. So why don't we look to Jerusalem? In fact, now here is something that is interesting. You have a lot of people calling themselves, or will make an organization or a church or whatever, and call it Jerusalem. But it doesn't even go to Jerusalem to see what his way is. What is his way? They don't go to Jerusalem to see the old paths. They don't go to Zion to hear the law. They don't want to get the word from Jerusalem, but they'll put the name up there. Jerusalem this, city of Jerusalem, all this. So my question is, and I do have a witness on this, Micah chapter 4, verse 1 and 2. But my question is, well, let's go to Micah 4. Let's go there real quick. Micah 4, verse 1 and 2. And I want you to ask yourself, just, in your mind, ask yourself, are we in the last days? Is this what he's speaking of, the last days? Or have we already had the last days? Or we're waiting for the last days to come? Now, you got to be somewhere around there. Either you think the last days already happened, or we're in the last days, or it's yet to come. Somewhere in there, you've got to find your place. But he says, but in the last days it shall come to pass, the mountain of the house of Yah shall be established in the top of the mountain, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. Doesn't it sound like Isaiah? I mean, almost word for word. You got another prophet, so you have another witness. Because he says in Deuteronomy chapter 17, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. In verse number 2, and many nations shall come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of Yah and to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways. We will walk in his paths, for the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of Yah from Jerusalem. It says almost the exact same thing. Even verse number 3, about your swords, turning your swords into plowshares and your spears into pruning hooks. So either we are in the last days, or the last days is about to come. And whatever your belief is, it gives us clear instructions on who we should be receiving the word from. It's very clear. It's very clear where the word is coming from, where the law is coming from, where the old paths are coming from. It's clear. It's crystal clear. of where it's coming from. And it's not coming from any other region. So when I was thinking about that, and I was looking at some of the things that Jerusalem does, and some of the ways of Jerusalem. And we have the Passover coming up. At the end of March. I have to get the exact date. I think it's March 27th, March 28th is when we're going to celebrate the Passover. And so Jerusalem is keeping the Passover and unleavened bread, but we who say we are in the light, many people who say they're in the light don't even understand Passover, don't know when it is. It's not even in their heart to search to find out if this is the Passover or not. They just gravitate to what is, Easter. They just gravitate to that. And then they follow Rome instead of following Jerusalem. But I don't see anywhere in this book where it says follow Rome. I don't see anywhere in the book where it says I want you to follow Rome. Rome is going to come up with their own plan and their own way and their own law, so I want you to follow Rome. You won't find that anywhere in this book. Anywhere. But yet, the congregation and the assembly follows Rome and doesn't follow Jerusalem. And I just don't see that. I mean, we've got some Bible scholars here. We've got ministers here. And we got people searching the scriptures all the time. But tell me and show me in scripture where he tells us to follow Rome. So why do we look to Rome and keep all of the paganism of Rome, but don't keep the old ways or keep the past or even search and seek for the old ways from Jerusalem? But we say we're walking in light. Oh, I'm walking in light. I've got all the light I can walk in. What has happened is we've been taught that everything that was written in the Old Testament is done away with. That's the root of the problem. The root of the problem is all of that is done away with, and so now you don't have to keep no feasts, you don't have to learn the commandments, you don't have to do none of that, because that we're not under that. All of that was done away with. Well, who did away with it? Now, if you ask Rome will tell you Christ did away with it. So let's go to Hebrews chapter 13, verse number 8. Hebrews 13 and 8. So if I believe this, then how can I believe Rome that says everything he did, when he came, he did away, he abolished it, he destroyed it, he did away with it. And Hebrews 13 and 8 says, Jesus Christ the same yesterday, today, and forever. I mean, how clear can it be? I mean, how clear can it be? There's no change in him. When Rome says Christ did away with the Old Testament and with the commandments, with the law, that's what Rome says. That's not what this book says. This book does not say that. This book does not teach that. From Genesis to Revelation, this book does not teach it. So how do we fall into the trap of being Romanized and not following in the path of Jerusalem? How did that happen? Because I'm telling you, it happened before any of us came here. It happened, yes. I mean, that's a part of it, but there's a spirit of deception that has blanketed the world. His whole purpose was to deceive. So he uses instruments, devices, whoever he can to deceive. I was speaking to somebody today. I can't believe how people are so deceived by one man. It astonishes me how the very character of this man is the exact opposite of what's written in our book. Pride is something he hates. The man's full of pride, arrogant. The love of money is the root of all evil. He loves it. He got to have it. I got to have it. Money, money, money. I mean, the devil's a father of lies, a pathological liar. The Bible talks about being moral and clean and holiness and godliness. He's the exact opposite of that. Yes. Yeah. The more they want to hear lies. Mm-hmm.
And these people are eating this up like it's chocolate cake or German chocolate cake or their favorite pizza or whatever, and they're just eating it up.
Well, and you know what happens if somebody lies to you so much and all the time? What happens? You believe it. You actually believe that is the truth. When they lie so much, you believe that is the truth. And that's what some people believe. One man almost brought down the democracy of this country. And it's still reeling. It ain't over yet. It's not over yet. And so sometimes we think, well, one person can't do that kind of damage. Oh, yes, they can. Yes, they can. But when somebody lies to you he is the exact opposite of what the book teaches. But yet, the moral majority or the Christian church or whatever give him 100% support. It's like, how can you not see it? That's what how can you not see it? There's some things that's just crystal clear. It's just crystal clear. But the power of deception, which is what the enemy has, he came to deceive. And not just to deceive nations, but he'll deceive. He said, I'm going to sit on the congregation in the sides of the north, which means he wants to sit on top of the congregation. Well, according to our Father in heaven, he only has one congregation. He only has one congregation. So when the devil wants to sit on that congregation, don't think he hasn't deceived. He doesn't have the power to deceive. Anybody, I'll say this, because I'm trying to run away from Rome. Anybody that goes to Rome to get an understanding of this book is going to be deceived. You're just going to be deceived. Anybody that goes to Rome to get an understanding of this book. So I want to go to Matthew 5 and start with verse 17. And I'm going to read down. We're going to go down through here because the trickery and the fact that, and you know why we're easily deceived? Because we don't know Scripture. We don't know the Old Testament. If somebody does not know the Old Testament, oh, you ain't got no light in your house. He's going to get you. If you don't have an understanding of the Old Testament, he's got you. Well, all I need is Christ. But what are they telling you about Christ? They're telling you Christ did away with the law. I mean, I say that, and I want to be forgiven because I don't believe that. But that's what they tell you because of a misunderstanding of this book. If you go to Rome to get an understanding of what Christ said, and you don't go to Jerusalem, then you're going to be way off. You're going to be deceived. So Jesus says, think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. So Rome will tell you that upon him living his life, he fulfilled the law, so we don't have to. And so that's what Rome says. Rome says he was perfect. Yeah, he was perfect. He didn't commit no sin. He fulfilled the law. And by him fulfilling the law, he says, it is finished. The law is done away with. All you got to do is believe in him for salvation. That's all you got to do, is believe in him for salvation. But he did not. Let's look at that. He says, I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. So not understanding what fulfill means gets a lot of people in trouble. A lot of teachers and preachers, because they don't understand what the fulfilling that he did. And you know what? He answers that question. If anybody's got any questions about fulfilling it, he answered it. All you got to do is keep reading. All you have to do is keep reading, and he tells you how he fulfilled it. It's right there as you read the rest of this chapter and into chapter 6. It is right there. So let's hear. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. So now I have to understand what the law is and what was fulfilled in the law. If he's telling me I'm not destroying the law and none of it's going to pass away until it's all fulfilled, what are you telling me that was fulfilled or that was passed away? Because he's going to tell you what he's going to fulfill here. He tells you right here, whosoever therefore shall break at least or break one of these least commandments, the very least commandment, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So teachers and preachers that are teaching you to break the commandments are going to be least in the kingdom. Then it's trying to understand the definition of the least. What do you mean the least? That's another direction we can go in. But he says any teacher or anybody that's teaching you to break the least one. And how many churches say that you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that, and all that? How many churches do that? Jesus says if they teach you to break the least of them, they're going to be least in the kingdom. And those who teach shall do and teach, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Now, just look at our day, anytime you start to say anything about the law and teaching the commandments, do you get a fight on your hands in the church? Oh, yeah. They come up against you like right now. In fact, they come up against you yesterday. If you say anything about that. And the reason why they say it is really kind of in ignorance. It's not, I think it's ignorance they say it. Because if they knew what they were saying, they probably wouldn't, and they know the gravity of what they're saying, they probably wouldn't say it. But they do it in ignorance, and the 17th chapter of Acts tells us there was a time where he winked at ignorance, but he's not winking anymore. What is he doing now? He's telling men to what? He's telling every man to repent. I want all y'all to repent. I'm not. I mean, you was ignorant at one time. You're not. I'm not taking your ignorance anymore. I want everybody to repent. If he did away with the righteousness that is in the law, what Moses taught as far as righteousness and the law, if he did away with it, why would he say verse 20? For I say unto you that except your righteousness shall exceed. He didn't say, I want you to be equal with, he said, if your righteousness doesn't exceed of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. Oh, but you'll listen to a preacher telling you that it's all done away with. And he's telling you, if your righteousness don't exceed the scribes and Pharisees, you ain't getting in. You don't hear too many people in church saying that. It's almost like I want to pick and choose what I want out of this book. I don't want the whole book. I don't want the totality of the book. I just like certain books, certain things. I have certain books, scriptures and things. I mean, things I've committed to my heart that I really love but I have to take the whole book. I have to take the whole book. So now the fulfilling of it, when he says, I didn't come to destroy, I came to fulfill. So to fulfill something means to give you more of it. Okay, if you had let's say you had you look in your refrigerator and it's kind of skimpy. You don't have a lot in it. You might have a half gallon or gallon of milk, and that's half gone. You might have a little bit of juice left in there, maybe a apple. It used to be a dozen of eggs. Now you're down to like 4 eggs. The head of lettuce is getting small. The onions, you peeled back the onion, you chopped them up. Now you had a big old, had a nice little bowl with a top on it of onions, but you've been using them, so now you got less onions than that. And you're taking an inventory of your refrigerator and go, man, what do I need? I need some groceries. I need to have my refrigerator filled up. I need to have it filled up. So then, you go to the store and you fill up your refrigerator, and all of a sudden you open your refrigerator door and you got all of this food and everything in it. What do? Do you get rid of your refrigerator? Do you get rid of it? When he fulfills it, he fills it up. Do you get rid of it then? No, I ain't getting rid of no refrigerator. Not you filled it up with food. You think I'm gonna get rid of it? No, I don't think so. So when he fulfilled it, he didn't get rid of anything. He just gave you more. He added to it. He fulfilled it, so he gave you more. Or let me put it in this, let me say what he says here. When he fulfilled it, he explained it to a deeper degree. When he fulfilled it. So let's see. Verse 21. Ye have heard that it was said of them of old time, thou shalt not kill. Now, where do you think he got that from? Moses law, right? That's commandment number what? We should all know it. Commandment number 6. Commandment number 6. Thou shalt not kill. So that's number 6 commandment. So do you think he's doing away with that law? No, he's not doing away with it. Let him explain to you how he's fulfilling it. And whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. And so you go back and you read about killing. Now, they had, and this is where we get the word manslaughter, because you had some accidental deaths, and so there were certain judgments on that. You had, if it was just outright, you hated your neighbor or whatever, and you went and killed him, well then, you had to deal with the judgment. So let's listen to Christ fulfill. He's getting ready to fulfill. But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. He's fulfilling it now. He's taking you to another and a better understanding of what it meant when it says thou shalt not kill. Now, for us to, okay, I'm not going to, man, I have not taken anybody's life. John brings it out later and says, if you hate your brother, you're what? You're a murderer. You're a murderer. Wait a minute, I ain't killed nobody. But fulfilling of the law means if you hate them, you're a murderer. That's fulfilling it. He's putting in, he's bringing in all of the areas that were kind of dark or gray. Now I got to expose it. I'm going to just bring it to light. I'm going to bring it to light. If you're angry with your brother without a cause, you're guilty of the judgment. Whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You gave me all these emotions. I got all kinds of emotions. But he says, if you're angry with him with what? You don't even have a cause to be angry. You know what he's dealing with now? He's getting to the heart of the matter. Because in the commandments, it was written in stone, it was very plain and everything. But when he came to fulfill it, let me get to the heart of it. If you are angry with your brother without a cause, you're guilty of the judgment. Man, now he's hitting home runs. He's hitting it out the park now. Yes.
By him saying without a cause, without a reason, is he trying to say that, I can understand, if you had a reason why, I can understand why you did what you did?
What you're saying is if there is a reason, maybe there is a reason. And then there's some things later on, if we read down through here, he talks about it, because that's further down here, because he explains having an ought. Oh, yeah. So he's not doing away with anything. The law is not destroyed. When he says, I've come to fulfill it, let me explain it to you. Let me explain to you what the law is saying. Not the commentary or the Talmud. I'm not dealing with the Talmud. I just want to explain to you why it says thou shalt not kill. Because now we have to look at, because when you say thou shalt not kill, you're looking at murder. But he's going to the heart of the matter. So he's saying now, because if you're angry with your brother and there's not even a cause for it, what will that lead to? It could lead to murder. It could lead to that. Because it's where? It's in your heart. It's in your heart. And if you don't deal with your heart, that's going to lead to some actions. Because what's ever in your heart, after a while, you're going to what? You're going to do what's in your heart. After a while. You might try to disguise it. You'll walk softly. You'll try to tiptoe, hide it and everything. After a while, it's going to come out. It's going to come out unless you deal with it. So he says, without a cause is danger of the judgment. And whosoever shall say to his brother, Reka, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, thou fool, shall be in danger of hell fire. So he's going to, not only are you not to kill, but you have to be careful how you speak to your brother. Now, to me, that's heavier. Remember what he said in the 23rd chapter of Matthew? He says, you pay tithes of mint, anise, and cumin and all this, but you leave out what? Anybody remember what it says? The weightier matters of what? Of the law. You've left out the weightier matters of the law. He's starting to deal with some weight, some heavyweight stuff here. Why? It's because I have to fulfill it. I've got to explain to you. I mean, no, Christ did not commit any sin. No, he did not. But for us to say, well, he didn't know any sin, so he fulfilled the law. That's not what why we understand it like that? It's because you got that explanation from Rome. And if you go to Rome to understand this book, you're going to be deceived. You can't go to Rome. Can't go to Rome. Yes. Exactly. And you know why? Because he said, where does all that stuff come from? It comes from the heart. He says everything that comes out of the heart, that's what defiles you. You're defiled by what comes out of your heart. So that's why in fulfilling it, I have to get to the heart of the matter. That's how he fulfilled it. Yes.
What does the word reka mean?
Reka, that is to speak vainly about your brother. In his law, he says, "Don't take my name in vain." So when you speak in vain of your brother, then that puts you in danger of the council, and the council was the Sanhedrin. So you would go to the Sanhedrin and explain your situation and everything and what happened. If I hear somebody slandering my name, we got laws on the books. You can sue somebody for slander. Oh yeah, you can sue somebody for slander. Somebody starts slandering my name, I can sue them. So you have to be careful how you speak about others and about your brother, because he's dealing with a lot of the personal things, because the law was written on the stones, but they never put it where? In their heart. Even though Moses tried to get them to put it in their heart, they never put it in their heart. It was just written on stone. So he says, let me fulfill it. Let me fill up your refrigerator. Let me fill it up. Okay? Therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee. So if you're in some kind of conflict with your brother, and you might say, I did have a cause to be angry at him because of his transgression against me. He trespassed against me, and I'm angry at him. But then what did Jesus say when he talked about forgiveness? And then the disciple asked him, well, how many times should I forgive my brother? Till 7 times? And he said, what? 70 times 7. Oh, I said, I should have just left that alone. But there's times where we do have conflict with one another. So what does he say? He says, now you're at the altar to leave your gift. So, and you remember you have aught with your brother, or thy brother hath aught against thee. There is some kind of conflict. Something's going on with me and my brother. So did he say, just go on and pray through, brother, it'll be all right? Did he say that? You got folks trying to pray through on stuff, and you need to go to that person. You're trying to pray through. I'm trying to pray through. I got all this junk on my mind, my heart. I'm trying to pray through. You ain't going to pray through. You need to go to your brother. You go to your sister. You go to him. So he says here, you remember that thy brother hath aught against thee. Leave there thy gift before the altar and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother. Then come and offer your gift at the altar. It sounds to me like he ain't accepting the gift at the altar. And you have a lot of folks that come to the altar, a lot of folks giving gifts and everything, got alt in their heart, angry at brothers, using, running their name down, slandering them, all that stuff going on. And it's never dealt with. And so it just lingers on. You think he accepts your gift? Not according to this. Not according to this. He says first you go and reconcile with your brother. In fact, people who are praying through, either you got everything cool with your brother and sister, you ain't got no arguments or nothing. That's why you're so free and you can pray through it. Either that or you ain't real. Because I find it hard when some folks are just singing, shouting, crying all the time, but can't get along with their brother and sister. I find that very hard to accept. How can you be so spiritual, but you can't fulfill the word of this book? I don't know how you do it. Now, somebody is being deceived. It ain't our Father. He ain't deceived at all. Jesus Christ is not deceived. So who's deceived? Well, who was it? Aretha Franklin said, who's zooming who? Did she say that years ago? Who's zooming who? I mean, who's zooming who? You ain't deceiving him. So the one deceived must be me. So he deals with it. He says, agree with thine adversary quickly, while thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Sometimes it's good not to just run your mouth. Because for a lot of us Pentecostal folks, oh no, I'm going to give you peace of my mind. Oh no, I will get the last word. And they'll go again. And you got some on the job. And man, don't let nobody step on your steel-toe shoes. And you can't feel them anyway, but they step on your steel-toe shoes. Oh no, you're going to hear it. Ain't going to be no end to it. And then there's conflict going on. And then you want to go to church and sing and shout. I mean, it ain't. Who you fooling? Who you fooling? Because he says you keep doing that, your adversary is going to deliver you to the judge. The judge is going to deliver you to the plaintiff or the officer. If you get turned over to the plaintiff or the officer, where's he going to take you? You're going to jail. When it could have been nipped in the bud. Hey, I ain't going to argue with you, brother. I ain't going to argue with your sister. I'm not. You can argue with yourself. I'm not going to argue with you. Verily I say unto thee, thou shalt by no means come out thence till thou hast paid the uttermost farthing. So you're going to have to do your prison time. You're going to do it. 6 months in the county jail. And you find out some people, man, once they hear that sentence, they was a man, but when they hear that sentence, they got some people arrested on that insurrection. This one man was crying in the courthouse. But he wasn't crying on January 6th. He was out there just ruckus and rioting and all that. And having, he gets arrested now because they followed him home. They got picture. Now, what do you think? Everybody's got cameras. I seen all these cell phones. Don't you know they can pull all that stuff down? They can capture all that. They said one of those, I think the people who were behind that app called Parler, they downloaded all that footage and all that video clip and saved it on the hard drive before it was destroyed from January 6th. So they got all of that came off that app because they can't use that app anymore. That Parler app was dismantled or whatever, but there was an engineer or something that pulled all that stuff from January 6th onto a hard drive or somewhere before they dismissed that app, got rid of that app. And all these folks got these cell phones and people taking pictures and everything. That one guy took the podium with the microphones on, he's carrying it like he's leaving Six Flags with a big stuffed animal or something. I mean, he walking out there like, hey, I mean, it's like, I won a prize. He just waved. You know, he got arrested. I mean, but there's this one guy got arrested, man, and he got his sentence, man. Dude was crying. You know, he said, "Oh no, you're gonna pay. You're gonna pay the utmost farther. No, you got to pay now." You know, so we have to be careful. So he's fulfilling that. He does all this. He explains and he fulfills. Thou shalt not kill. He just fulfilled thou shalt not kill. For us, we look at thou shalt not kill and we think, oh, okay, well, I'm just not going to go out there. I'm not going to murder nobody. But you might have murder in your heart. Yeah.
I was going to say that a lot of people, even people who come to church, they feel the Holy Spirit and they feel they bless it, but they need the spirit of non-violence.
The spirit of what?
Non-violence.
Love valets?
Non-violence. Spirit, the Holy Spirit will give you a spirit of non-violence, where you can be able to keep your hands to yourself.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Non-violence.
Okay. All right.
The Spirit gives you that, and I mean, it gave it to me, and it keeps me out of trouble, keeps me to walk away from stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It will. It'll give you that peace. It'll give you that peace. And but there is a law that tells you what's going to happen if you get rid of your peace and pick up another piece. Then it tells you what can happen there, you know. So, and then verse 27, ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not commit adultery. Now, what commandment is that? What commandment is that? Okay, yeah. What? Okay, 7. That's number 7. So, okay, so, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory, right? Thou shalt not commit adultery. You think that's, you know. Now, for Christ, I mean, he was never married. So, you got your hand up? So let's listen to him fulfill it. He says, I didn't come to destroy, I've come to fulfill. So let's hear how he fulfills it. But I say unto you, whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already. Where? So he's fulfilling it now. He's getting to the heart of the matter. He's getting down on the inside. Because a lot of times we show stuff on the outside. But he sees the heart. He sees into the heart. We don't think he can see the heart. But he's telling you, I'm fulfilling the law. I'm letting you know I can see your heart. He says, for a man to look on a woman, to lust after her, that lust after her is like the 7th commandment. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Now you got some, some people have said, well, he has to be talking to married men, because single men, especially if they're dating, they're looking for their woman and their bride. Single men, they got some lust. There's some lust there, you know. Even when they're out trying to determine who they're gonna marry, they sizing them up. They kind of know what they want, you know. So there's a little bit of there's some lust there. They're desiring it. But what he's dealing with is he's dealing with the heart. So even if you're single, you can have lust in your heart. Not just being married, but being single, because he's not dealing with the completion of the act. What is he dealing with? What caused it? Or he's dealing with the heart. Because people can do and have all kind of stuff in their heart, but they've never committed the act. So by fulfilling the law, he's saying, in order for me to fulfill it, I got to hit your heart. I got to get to your heart in order for me to fulfill this law. Because didn't Moses teach him how to? He told him, you got to circumcise your heart. He said that in Deuteronomy. A couple times in Deuteronomy, I know in the 10th chapter, he says circumcision of the heart. He dealt with the circumcision of the heart. Moses did. Back before he died in the wilderness, he was dealing with that. But what was written on stone was simply, thou shalt not commit adultery. Well, with Christ, when Christ says, now let me explain that or let me fulfill that. Let me tell you all of what our Father meant when he gave Moses that law. I'm not doing away with it. I just want to explain to you what he meant so that you can get a full picture, or I can fill your cup. Wasn't it David that said, fill my cup, let it overflow? So if he filled his cup, I don't need it now. What you going to do with that full cup? I don't know. It's abolished. No, it's not. When he fulfilled it, he actually went to the heart of the matter. He wanted to explain it to us and show us what it meant. And that was the fulfilling of it. He says, he goes on, he says, if you just look at, so what does he say? If thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast from thee, for it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not thy whole body should be cast into hell. So now my eyes, out of the five senses, the one that is the most valued of all your five senses would be your eye. Nobody wants to lose their vision. I'll lose the sense of smell. For me, that'd be the first thing to go. If I had to give up one of my five senses, the first thing would be the sense of smell. Now, there's a lot of good things to smell, but man, there's some foul odors too. So if I had to give up one of my five senses, my first one I'd give up would be the sense of smell. Now, I don't want to give up none of them because there's so many beautiful things to smell. Beautiful aromas and the flowers and the smell of spring and everything. I mean, there's just some beautiful stuff that some fragrances you want to smell, and then I need my sense of smell to enjoy my food. Because they said if you don't have no smell, you really can't taste it. So I don't know. And so they're trying to destroy that now. We're going to take away your sense of smell. But what he's saying here in verse 29 is, it's better to give up a member than to be cast into hell. So if my eye offends me, now I don't want to pluck out my eye, but I've got to get rid of whatever is drawing that attention to me. I mean, for like right now, if you have a problem with this, well, you probably should give it up. Give up your device and not go to hell. Because if you got a problem with this and you can't stay off certain things, and I mean, then I better pluck it out. I better get rid of it. It's better to go without. And the way we are today, folks don't want to go without a phone. I was talking to a man, and he's no longer alive now. He passed away not too long ago, but we were talking, and we were just talking about the times and how times had changed. And he was telling me about his 16-year-old son that, they stress grades, in school, and you got to keep your certain grade point up if you want to play sports, or they had set those standards in the house. Well, his son all of a sudden got into a little trouble at school, not major trouble, but what they meant as trouble was his grades started to go down. In that house, that was paramount. You mean your grades going down? So he was on the sports team, and even the sports team had standards. I mean, you can't just flunk out and play sports. They ain't gonna let you do that. So there were certain standards that they had. And so when the father found out that some of his grades were suffering, they took him off. The first thing, they took him out of sports. That was the first thing. They said, you can't play sports. Your grades go down, you can't play sports. Well, his grades didn't improve. In fact, one of them went down again, and he says, okay. He says, okay, you got two choices. I'm either going to take your car from you, or I'm going to take your phone. And which one do you think he gave up? He gave up the car. He says, I'll give up the car. I'm not giving up my phone. And because we were trying to compare ages and stuff, because in my day, a car in high school, that was everything, man. That was everything. Having a car in high school, oh man, you was king on the block, man. You was on the block. Everybody was looking to you. Everybody wanted to ride with you. Everybody wanted to be in your car. I mean, you was sitting top on the block if you had a car in high school. But he said, you can take my car, Dad. I'm not giving up my phone. And so that's how attached we've become to this device. And so what the principle here is if this is offending you, you better get rid of it. It's better to get rid of this than to go have it send you to hell. You know, and he says, if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off and cast from thee, for it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. Again, the same principle. You know, not so much cutting your hand off or plucking your eye out, but he's dealing with the principle. Whatever's offending you, you better get rid of it. Just some things offend me. I can't go there. I can't be around. I don't even want to look at it. You know, some people might have to put blinders on. I mean, it's better to put blinders on, you can't look at me. No, I can't look at you. Because you got some folks, look me in my eyes. Some women would tell you, look me in my eyes. So, because you ain't looking in the eyes. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. But if that's offensive to you, you got to get rid of it. I can't look. Here's another thing. Here's another thing that I learned about our culture and the ancient Near Eastern culture and everything, that it was almost an insult to stare somebody down in their eye when you're talking to them and eye-to-eye contact, and you don't blink an eye, and you just look them dead in the eye and everything. That actually, in the culture that we come from, that's disrespect. What is respect is when you do acknowledge them and everything, but you kind of look down. Now, who does that? You know a culture that does that? They do it in prison? Yeah, because you got to respect. You better respect. But what culture does that? Huh? Yeah. Especially the women, they see you and they won't make that eye-to-eye contact. You know what that's called? Paul dealt with it. He said that's shamefaced. And he said that the women should be shamefaced. Because see, we look at shamefaced as, no, that's how the way you was born should be how you look. And we deal with that as far as shamefaced, your natural. That's not what Paul was dealing with. What Paul was dealing with was the culture that we have and the Near Eastern culture and everything. It was an insult to stare somebody down in their eyes, especially for a woman to look at a man in his eyes like that. That was an insult. No, you acknowledge them, but you don't look at them. And you can talk to them, but you ain't staring them down eye to eye. Now, this culture that we're in tells you, look me in my eye. And don't lose that eye contact. Yes.
This culture seems like if you don't look at them in your eyes, they think you're lying.
Right. But that's not the ancient Near Eastern culture. And I quoted something by John H. Walton the other day. I quoted that the other day. I think it was last Wednesday I quoted. I don't have that book, but I do have one of his books in my office. Ancient Near Eastern cultures and stuff. And it parallels the Old Testament, the Hebrew scriptures. But a lot of especially your women and stuff, would not stare you down in your eyes. And men, from where we come, we just did not stare one another down in our eyes. We had that respect, you know. So, do you have your hand up?
I had to deal with that yesterday on the job. I've been having conflict with my principal, and she wanted me to agree with her, like, because she was like what you're talking about, staring you in the eye. It was almost like she, like a trance, like stare into my eyes and make sure you agree with me. And I was reading her whole body language, and I'm not gonna lie, my flesh wanted to like tell her about herself. I'll be honest. But I had like, okay, talk about her, don't say anything. Because I don't know why this principal, like, it's like she's trying to get me to go off the edge. I don't know if it's so she can try to write me up, because right now she doesn't have any reason to write me up. And I'm not trying to give her a reason, but it's just like one day she's smiling and laughing, the next day, I mean, she just does these things. But so I told my parents today, I was like, the Lord must be trying to work something out in me. I said, because all these, these little things that just popping left and right, left and right. And then when I was trying to be a leader, with my group and stuff, and it's just like, she was like shooting down everything I was saying. I'm like, okay, you wanted me to be a leader with my group, but then when I try to be the leader, then you shoot down everything that I say. And then she was like staring in my eyes like, don't you agree? But it was the way she was doing it. I was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
They try to do it as kind of intimidation.
Very
They try to intimidate you. And
be quiet, because my flesh wanted to say, you know what? I don't think so. Whatever. But
yeah.
It's
And but when you look at the Hebrew culture, the ancient Eastern and the Hebrew culture and everything, that was a part of their culture. They didn't have that stare down intimidation eye to eye. They didn't do that, especially women. The women would not stare you down in the eye. In fact, if a man had a woman and she just stared him down eye to eye contact and just eye to eye, that was a sign of disrespect. And you still see that in the Asian cultures. The women, they'll meet you and then they'll do this. Huh? Yeah, because they get that from the ancient Eastern culture. And we're in the West now. This is a different culture, but that's how it used to be. So it can be. That's what Sister was saying. It's like intimidation. They're trying to intimidate you. But when Paul was dealing with shamefacedness, he was dealing with that. I mean, women should not be up in the face of men and having that bold, face-to-face contact in the face of men. He says you have to be shamefaced. That shamefaced is like the Asian culture, where if you see those women in the Asian culture, they'll meet you and stuff, and they'll bow, and they'll, because that's being shamefaced. Now, we translate that as being shamefaced as if you got spots on the face, or if you got to just, you can't touch your face. You can't, sometimes I wonder, can I wash my face? Can you even wash it? I mean, you can't do nothing. That's not what he was dealing with. So the translation of what Paul was dealing with when he said shamefacedness. And so, we've been taught that you don't touch your face. You don't put anything on your face. But that's not what Paul was dealing with. He wasn't dealing with that at all. He was dealing with more of the respect that a woman should have for a man. And a woman should not be up in a man's face. Just shouldn't. That's that. You can tell a woman has shamefacedness when she's not up in the face of a man. Well, this is a country now where the women are more equal than the men. If you want, okay. But I'm just trying to tell you what the Bible says. So we got a couple more things I want to hear, because we're going to get out. It has been said, because what we're dealing with here is Christ fulfilling the law. And he's teaching you, telling you, this is fulfilling of the law. I didn't come to destroy it, I'm fulfilling it. It has been said, whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a bill of divorcement. That's in Deuteronomy chapter 24. But I say unto you that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causeth her to commit adultery, and whosoever shall marry her that is divorced committeth adultery. Now this is coming from Deuteronomy 24, which is not the 10 Commandments. but it is a part of the law. And he says, it's been said unto you, whosoever shall put away his life, let him give her a bill and divorce him. But I say unto you. So what he's trying to fulfill what Deuteronomy 24, because in Deuteronomy 24, they were giving the bill of divorcement for anything. I don't like you no more. I don't like your hair. I don't, some people might, they got married, had a nice, pretty face and everything, but then over time she grew a mole on her nose. I don't like you no more. I'm just throwing that. Or I don't like the cooking anymore. I thought you was gonna cook like your mama, and you don't cook like your mama, so I'm getting rid of you. Or you've dishonored me in public, so I'm gonna get rid of you. So they were given a bill of divorcement for the slightest of things. And some of them, if they went to the judge and says, no, you can't divorce her for that, you know what they would do? Huh? You know what they would do? Yeah, they'd kill him. So they get another wife. So now, again, Christ is fulfilling the law. He's fulfilling it. But I say unto you, this is how he's fulfilling it, but I say unto you, that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causeth her to commit adultery, and whosoever shall marry her that is divorced committeth adultery. Now, that's a tough subject to teach in churches, and especially nowadays, because you have a lot of men that's got a lot of wives in the church. And you got a lot of people living in adultery according to Christ. According to the fulfilling of the law, you have a lot of people in the church living in adultery. It's sad to say, but it's true. You want the truth, or you want somebody to make you feel good? Or do you want the truth? He says, when Moses was dealing with you as far as putting away your wife in Deuteronomy 24, what Moses was dealing with there is there has to be a cause of fornication. And if there's not a cause of fornication and you've been put away and she's been put away, then you're both living in adultery. So you could have a woman who's been put away by her husband and it wasn't for the cause of fornication, and somebody's married to her, they're both in adultery. They're both in adultery. So to get the fulfilling of the law, it really takes some, let's understand this thing. And people wouldn't be hopping just to get married if they understood and they walked in the light. They just wouldn't. So when Moses says you can have a divorce, he's saying, let me fulfill that. If there's not a cause of fornication or what caused fornication, all y'all living in adultery. That's why, let's go to Hebrews chapter 13 and verse number 4. Hebrews 13 and 4. So it says, marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled. But whoremongers and adulterers Yah will judge. Because you have some people, he's going to judge everybody. He's going to judge everybody. People living in adultery, he's going to judge them. Now, you have some people who might not have known or never been taught that. You've got people who are already in the grave that, didn't walk in the light. They didn't walk in the light. They didn't have an understanding of it. They might have felt like, Moses, I have a right to divorce because Moses gave a bill of divorcement. Even Father Yah divorced Israel. So I give him a bill of divorcement. But why did he divorce Israel? You had to get to the heart of the matter, because Israel fell into what? Idolatry. And idolatry was like fornication and adultery. Idolatry is like fornication and adultery. So he divorced Israel. And that's why Jesus said, unless there's a cause. Now, Paul says, and even in the 7th chapter of 1 Corinthians, Paul gives some things. Paul says, this is not a commandment, but I tell you. So there's some things that he did not get from the Lord, but he spoke his mind. But Paul said that in the church now, if you have irreconcilable differences and you divorce, then happy living singly. Now, if you want to mate or you want to get back together, you got to get back with the one that you got yourself divorced from. But what Jesus said in fulfilling of the law, what Jesus was saying was, if there's no cause of fornication, then you have to stay together. Now, if there's cause for fornication, then you can get the bill of divorcement. Okay, real quick. And again, ye have heard that it hath been said by them of old time, thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt perform unto Yah thine oaths. So forswearing yourself, that is like bearing false witness. Okay, when you forswear yourself. And then when you give an oath unto him, he expects you to fulfill your oath. Now, if I had time, I'm going to go to Deuteronomy 23, because what Jesus is dealing with here is in Deuteronomy 23. And not only Deuteronomy 23, but I think Leviticus chapter 32. Or no. Leviticus 30, there's 36 chapters, 37 chapters. It's towards the latter part of Leviticus, because he's dealing with vows. You know, when you make a vow unto him, you know, what is he? If you make a vow unto him, what does he expect? He expects you to pay that vow, and you're not free. You're not released from it. And then he gives you in the 23rd chapter of Deuteronomy. He explains to you the oaths, because if you make an oath, or if you say you're going to give, or you're going to give so much, I made a vow to the Lord I was going to give. Because some people say this, Lord, if you give me that job, I'm going to be faithful, paying my tithes as long as I got that job. Well, he gives you the job, and then all of a sudden you get merit raises, and it was cool when you have $500 and you paid $50, but when you got $5,000, now it ain't cool to pay $500. You know? So he says, if you made an oath now, and people, here's the thing, you have people who backslide and leave the church, and they made these oaths unto him. You give me that, I'm going to do my offering, I'm going to pay my tithe. And they backslide. Well, I ain't in church no more. Do you think that's going to get them out with the Most High? You ain't get no out. That ain't no out, not to him. He says, if you make an oath, you read Deuteronomy 23, you're to fulfill that oath. Don't play. I mean, that's why in the end time, in the end day and everything, he's going to have to deal with a lot of folks, because folks they're just running amok with the church. They're running amok with his law. They think that, I can do all this and that. Folks, they get saved. They make all these oaths, and they're going to do this. And I always pay my tithe, all this and that. And then they backslide. I ain't got to pay nothing. I ain't in church no more. You made a vow. He expects you to keep that vow. You better read Deuteronomy 23. People don't want to read Deuteronomy 23. That's the law. That's done away with. No, what he's doing is he's fulfilling it. He's telling you here. He says, but I say unto you, don't make an oath, don't swear at all, neither by heaven, for it is his throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because thou cannot make one hair white or black, but let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay, for whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. So you have to be careful when you come into the church, and sometimes the services get high, and these men and these women, they know how to clean your pockets, and they'll tell you, you need to give. Now you do a seed offering, you're going to give this offering, all this and all, and then you don't do it. If you made that oath to him, you better keep that oath. I'm going to pay it back. I'm going to pay it back. And then folks leave the church. Well, I don't go to church no more. I'm free. I don't go to church no more. I don't have to pay it back. You're not. You're not. You're bound. You're bound by that. That's why he says, don't be, how does he put it in Ecclesiastic? He says, don't let your mouth cause your flesh to sin. He says, he says, when you go into the house of the Most High, be more ready to listen than to speak. Because your mouth can cause your flesh to sin. Yeah. So wise up on this. And I wanted to go to Deuteronomy 23. I'm not going to go there tonight because our time is up. But I wanted to kind of bring out some things because that is our. I said Deuteronomy 23. No, that's not it. I think that's not it. Huh? 24? That's dealing with the bill of divorcement. Oh, I was reading it today too. Is it? Oh, okay. Anyway, our time is about up. I don't want to hold it too much longer. But, yeah.
When he says, unless your righteousness is exceeding the Pharisees, what did he actually mean? A lot of people don't know what that really means. What does it really mean in detail? Because you do the law, and they do the word.
Yeah. I mean, when he said the righteousness had to succeed that of the scribes and the Pharisees, not the Talmud, not the traditions that they got out of the Talmud. That's not what he's dealing with, but the righteousness that was in the law. So go to Romans. Go to Romans chapter. Is it 8 and 4? Romans 8 and 4. It says that the righteousness of the law might be fulfilled in us who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. And so when I read Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, when I read through there and understand the righteousness that he is speaking of, then that has to be fulfilled in me. And that's what Jesus was talking about. It's that righteousness that is in there. When you get to the 23rd chapter of Matthew, and not only that, but I think it's the 16th chapter of Matthew, it talks about the 15th chapter, it talks about the traditions. He says, you made my word of none effect by your traditions. Because when you look at the Talmud had a lot of traditions. And one of the traditions, because he even talked about it, how come your disciples don't wash their hands? He went through this whole litany because in the Talmud, they have the tradition of the elders and the tradition of washing the hands. All that's the oral law. That wasn't the Mosaic law. And so what we have to look for is the righteousness that is in the law, and that has to be fulfilled in me. So just like he's explaining, when we read, like we was reading tonight, he is fulfilling that law. So when I understand that even if I'm angry with my brother, I can't even do that, So was any Pharisees angry? If they probably did. Well, they delivered him up to the Romans, So I got to do better than that. I got to do better than that. I have to watch what I say. I can't slander my brother or my sister. I can't speak vain. I can't use their name in vain. I can't do that, because that's the same as he's saying, thou shalt not kill. So that's the righteousness of it. I've got to have the righteousness of it. My heart has to be clean. I can't be looking at sisters and lusting after them. Can't do that. Not in my heart. I can't do that. So that's the righteousness of it. And so the Pharisees, what did he say about the Pharisees? On the outside, you're white as sepulchres, but what on the inside? Full of dead men's bones, So I can't just look good on the outside. When he fulfilled the law, he dealt with the heart. He dealt with the heart. And so it's not, I can't say it's done away with. He's fulfilling it. It has to get in my heart. That's why David said, thy word have I hid in my heart that I might not sin against thee. I don't want to sin against thee. I don't want to transgress. I got to understand what transgression is. And what Christ did when he fulfilled it, he just went to the heart of the matter. So just by what we read here, if I can walk in that righteousness, then that's what's going to get me in. And he says, the Pharisees did it, but theirs was more of an outward appearance. Now for you, in order for you to exceed them, it has to be where? In the heart. It's got to be inward. It's got to be inward. Because they didn't have it in their heart. They didn't have it in their heart. And I've got to find where I know the 27th chapter talks about, the 27th chapter of Leviticus, we're not going to go there, I'm about finished. 27th chapter of Leviticus talks about vows and how you're to pay your vows. But there was another chapter, I thought, in Deuteronomy, and I thought it was 23, but it's not. I'm going to have to go back into my study and see that chapter I was dealing with in Deuteronomy. But I'm going to bring this class to a close. We still have to go over what Jesus was dealing with, and as we get down to, in the Beatitudes there, he's fulfilling the law. He's not doing away with it, he's fulfilling it. So any teacher, preacher says the law's done away with, what are you talking about? The law of sacrifice, that was the Old Testament. Because the Old Testament, in order to have a testament, you got to have what? Death of the testator. You got to have some blood. It's ratified and it's sealed by blood. When you enter into a covenant, it's ratified by blood. So it was the blood of the bulls and goats of the First Testament, or what we call the Old Testament. But now Jesus says, take this cup and drink this. This is the blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sin. So he ratifies, when he says, I'm fulfilling the law, he ratifies it with his blood. He ratifies it with his blood. So we can study more of Exodus through Deuteronomy and get to the heart of the matter, because that's what he wants to do. He wants it to get into your heart. And when you look at it, it really deals a lot with cleanliness and cleanliness of the heart and your lifestyle. He wanted his people to be totally different from all the other nations. And he gave them laws, statutes, commandments so that they would be different. I don't want you to be like all those other nations. What was that? Leviticus, was that 5? Or wait, no. Leviticus 7. He says, or Leviticus, maybe it's Leviticus 18. He gets ready. It is Leviticus 18. He said in 3. He says, the doings of Egypt, wherein you dwelt, and after the doings of the land of Canaan, where I'm going to bring you, I don't want you to walk like them. I don't want you to be in their ordinances. I don't want you to be like them. So I'm going to give you your own set of laws, ordinances, statutes, so that you are my people, separated from all the other nations. It's just that we've been told they're all done away with, and they're not. They're not. Now so any questions, comments out there? Any questions or comments? That's not a question. That's a laugh. That's not a question. If there any no questions out there? Yes.
I'm still thinking about when he said you have to have a cause to kill, and basically, is he really saying that I'll be the judge of that?
To
You have to have a cause to hate your brother or kill?
What is one of the he said there's 2 laws that all the law and the prophets hang on. What was the second one? Love thy neighbor as thyself. So if it's in your heart, I can't get angry with you. I can't slander you. If it's in my heart. Now, if it's not in your heart, then you're going to do all kind of things. But if it's in my heart, I know that there's just some things, man, I love my brother like I love myself, and I know how I want him to treat me, so I'm not going to treat him. I'm not going to treat him any different than I would want him to treat me. You know, you don't want people talking about you and running you down. You know, if you're really honest, we all want to be loved. If you're really honest. And the deficiency of love is what throws the whole world out of sync. A deficiency of love. We can take it in a micro sense. Deficiency of love in a family will destroy the family. It will just literally destroy a family. You don't have the love between a man and his wife, and a wife and her husband. You don't have the love there, and then you have kids, and you don't have love for the kids, and the kids don't have love for the parent. You think that house is going to be destroyed. And not only would that house be destroyed, but everywhere those children go, because they've been poisoned and contaminated. So a deficiency of love. In fact, a child will die. If a child is born and you never show it any love or affection, that child will not grow up. They'll die. They'll die for the lack of love. So if we're honest with ourselves, we all want to be loved. And so he's saying, now you love your neighbor, like you love yourself, like you want to be loved. That's how you love your neighbor. And unless you are mentally deranged, you ain't setting no fire to your skin, you ain't walking on glass and needles, and you ain't blowing up your own house. I'm going to set a bomb to my house. I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to set a timer on the bomb, and when my first snore, it's going to detonate. Don't nobody do. You don't do that, but you want to do it to your brother? There's something wrong. There's something wrong. Okay, if not, I'm going to call this class to a close, bring it to the close. We thank you all for coming and being a part of Christ Apostolic Church Bible class, and we'll be here on the Sabbath teaching at 11 o'clock. Sure hope you gained something out of this class, and look us up on the Give Plus app. And if you made a vow to the Lord, you better keep it. And with that, I say shalom, grace and mercy. Praise the Lord and hallelujah.